All right, and this way, today, Wednesday, July 29th, 2026, we begin session 360 of Tesos and Wi-Fi. This session is part of the free, 100% free, 98% in English, wireless LAN professionals Wi-Fi design class. We decided to bring this to everybody, everywhere in the world. So we got people from India or Canada or both, right? Gurpreet. Then we have people
Both.
from
I
Sweden,
represent both Ferney for sure.
all right, from France, La France, and I don't know what many other countries. Thank you very much for making me company. I am not in the man cave today, as you can see. I'm in Reno, Nevada, the Peppermill Hotel and Casino. We have a Wi-Fi troubleshooting class today and tomorrow. So we're going to be here before class starts. I decided to wake up early and hey, come and spend some time with you. Today, we were going to, well, I told you in the email that we are going to talk about the life cycle of a project. Maybe we even have time for that, but we'll probably like to make that its own session. But something that has come to my attention, something that is not new, this is something really old, and since yesterday, let me just see where let me share my screen. Audio and video, okay? Now my screen and your screen, okay as well?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, let me minimize this window. Let's see, on your screen, what do you have right now?
Your web browser.
The website, okay, the web browser. Let me just then minimize this Zoom window. Do you see your beautiful faces there on the screen too, or that's just for me? You don't see yourself on the screen, right? See, I'm used to having my TV and my stuff in the man cave, and here I don't have it. So I'm gonna have to just live with this little screen. Oh, I think I can connect my iPad as a second screen. Wow, just too much work. Let's just keep it simple. All right. So yesterday, or the previous session, 359, we talked about Wi-Fi interference, or the interference that comes from other Wi-Fi devices. Well, happens that yes, in the documentation everywhere we've talked about and we've shown the graph that represents a basic service set or a basic service set area, or the cell size or the area that an access point or a radio covers is usually represented with a circle, okay? So what I want to talk to you today about in class is something about called cell overlap. The word overlap usually means something that is on top of, overlapping with something else. In Wi-Fi, we use that term, and it can have kind of a negative connotation. It's like, oh, there's overlap. That's interference. That's cells on top of cells. Well, yes, if they're overlapping and they're on different channels, we talked about overlapping basic service set. See, let me just see if I have that graph around here somewhere. I think this is the one, overlapping basic service set, that you have a primary on channel 36 on this guy, but then you also have a 40 megahertz wide channel whose primary is at 40, and then you have an 80 megahertz wide channel whose primary is at 80. So there is a big mess in here because they are overlapping. But the reality is that if these guys were all in different channels, like I am in a convention center, and if you have a lot of people for high density, you need like multiple cells, not of course in the same channel, not of course with different primaries in different channel widths. The idea would be that, let's say right here, if I have an AP in channel 36, and let's say another AP on channel 52, and let's say another third AP on channel 100. So those cells would not overlap, and I have access to 3 of those cells. 3 APs for capacity, I need that cell overlap. For redundancy, if one of these APs goes down, then those other 2 still cover this area. If I have way too many devices, then I need this cell overlap. Again, not in the same channels and overlapping. This is a graph that we use to show overlapping basic service set. But what we're talking today about is the overlap of cells. Let me see if this helps, if I found a better graph. Let's just say this, okay? Let's bring this guy. I actually think I have a better one in it. Well, because this is all from one AP, but let's forget the one AP for now. If I have right here in this place, one AP covering this area, and then I have access to multiple APs in different channels for high density, that's good. Because then I can limit that each AP receives, I don't know, 50 users. And then I'm going to have capacity available for multiple devices. I can have 300 people here, and some people will join to one AP, others to a different AP, but we need multiple APs in the area. Now, why are we talking about this cell overlap? The good one, of course, that there are multiple channels. You need multiple signals in a place to provide for roaming. If I am connected to one AP and the signal is getting weak and I'm moving along the way, and what do I need to roam to another AP? So I need another AP that has a really good enough signal for me to just connect to that access point. So I need cell overlap. But what is the problem? In a lot of documents and places, they talk about a percentage of cell overlap. See, I've seen this in documents. And we hear this nowadays in documents, in RFPs, and customers that will request that, hey, we need that we need coverage, and there has to be an overlap of 30% or 40%. This one right here, it says that for this design, let's say your next AP should be about 1.4 times or 1.3 if you love accuracy. That distance from the previous AP to achieve a recommended 15 to 20% cell overlap. Have you guys seen that recently? Have you heard about it? Have you been questioned about it? Customers sometimes ask, documents sometimes disclose. I mean, I'm showing you a document that I know, looking at the, I don't know, it could be a Cisco document, or it could be, I've heard it in Aruba documentation too. You know,
yeah, it's in both front. So it's in both. This is a Cisco one, but Aruba has it similar. So they had that validation reference guides in which they talk about 15 to 20% overlap, depending on if you're doing a data versus a voice design.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay. So here's the problem with that. Mr. Parsons, many years ago, wrote a piece called The Fallacy of Channel Overlap. That still stands true today because we see it, we hear it, and people talk about it and say, like, okay. And let me just tell you a little bit of a story of what happened with this. At one of the projects he was working on, he was asked, like, hey, you know, the RFP said, like, we need, you know, we need Wi-Fi. We need you to design our Wi-Fi. And one of the requirements is that you meet the 30% overlap. So, you know, we have overlap of cells everywhere. And then now, and since they put that in RFPs, then you have to meet those requirements, or else they may not pay you or withhold the payments until you meet that requirement. So he started investigating and said, well, this cell overlap thing, I'm going to have to meet this requirement or I might get in trouble. So he went to a friend of his that is a professor of mathematics at BYU and asked him, said, hey, you're a mathematician. I do Wi-Fi, and then, you know, there's cell coverage for each radio. And then at this project, they're asking me for meeting a requirement of 35% overlap. So like these two cells right there, they overlap 0%. They don't overlap at all. Okay. How about now? And here's when I ask a question and you guys try to answer it. Guillermo, what do you think? What's the percentage of overlap of those two cells?
33%.
33%. Good, Prit. What do you think?
Best guess, Ferney. Again, I can calculate that, I think, still, because it's a perfect sphere. So
yeah. And then the guy, the mathematician, asked and said, okay, what do you mean the percentage of overlap? Because if you analyze that, those two cells overlap 50% of the diameter. The diameter, of course, side to side, and you're only covering half of it. So it's 50% of the diameter, 100% overlap of the radius from the center to the edge. Then 100% of the radius is being covered by the other one. They're overlapping. It's 29 of the circumference and 23% overlap of the area. So what percentage of overlap do you want? Or what are you talking about? And he said, oh, yeah, that's right. I hadn't thought about that. But wait, you're a mathematician. How did you get to these 4 different percentages? 50% of the diameter, 100 of the radius, 29 of the circumference, and 23% overlap of the area. And the guy said, like, oh, that's easy with this formula. I have not met a single wireless expert or Wi-Fi engineer that goes through and runs through this formula to calculate that 20, 30, 15, 25% cell overlap or whatever number it is that they are requesting or they are recommending. And he said, wow, that's a really complicated formula right there. But wait, happens that in real life, the cells we talk about when we are talking a basic service set, like the cell size and the area that this basic service set covers, is not a perfect circle. It just changes based on the environment. It's more like an amoeba. Even if you have an open space and you have an omnidirectional access point, the pattern is not going to be a perfect circumference. So he said, what if then I do not have perfect circles if I have these amoeba-looking shapes? How do you calculate that percentage of overlap? And he said, no, you can't. You can't calculate these percentages of these overlaps and these circles because they are circles. They're perfect circumferences. In real life, for what we do in Wi-Fi, we cannot estimate this so-called cell overlap that customers and vendors and manufacturers of devices require. For this device to work requires, 30% cell overlap or requires 30% cell overlap. It cannot be measured. It cannot be calculated. Why are we still requesting those from people and trying to put that as a requirement in any Wi-Fi project? It just doesn't work that way, okay? This is one of the things that we in the industry have to educate our peers and our customers in a way that this doesn't become, and I mean, we're talking, this document is at least probably 20 years old. I wonder if there's a date here at the end. 2009. See, I was not far away. So it's about 17 years old. That's when this document was written. I have another version in Espanol. I will, actually, you know what? These documents are, if you go to the wireless, let me just bring this over here. If you go to Toolbox, wireless LAN, just remove this guy, toolbox.WLANPros.com. Actually, I think I can open it here in my browser. I think that's what the shortcut was. Will it bring me here? Yeah. Come on. Maybe not. Let me just bring it over here. So I can open in my browser right there, or you can download the app. If you have not downloaded the Toolbox, download it. I can try it in my browser. I also have it installed down here. Make sure this is the right one. In there, somewhere, I don't know if it's in educational resources or quick reference, but that document, the fallacy of channel overlap, is there somewhere. Have any of you opened that from here and know where it is? Let's see. I can make a search. Let's see. Over Badger Wi-Fi overlap, no.
Yeah, I tried
Fallacy.
searching for it. I couldn't find it there, but I found it on the Wireless Pro Professionals website, the actual document. I
Okay.
put the link there.
Can you
Yeah.
post the link on the chat or
Yep,
it's
I
already
already
there?
did.
Okay, so there it is. You can just download that document, use it as a reference. Thank you, Gurpreet. He placed the link on the chat to download the document. I also have a version of that document in Espanol. I did the translation for that. And I will, if you guys need, I'll probably just send it on the Spanish speaking group, but keep that in mind. Now, it's 6:30 right here in Reno, Nevada. What we can do is now talk about just share this screen, the life cycle of a project. Then we're going to have time to cover both things today. So let's leave this session as one session. So here's what we're going to do. Let me just show you a couple of things then. So if you cannot measure this cell overlap, what do we do then? How do we tell customers, well, we cannot offer you 30% cell overlap, but what we can offer you and design for is to have a secondary signal, to have two signals covering the same place. So in design, let me just open. It's so hard to work with just one window. Let me see if I have this design, for instance. Let me see if I can change the view from coverage to secondary coverage. So when we are talking about coverage, is in a design is basically where I have one signal at certain signal strength. Let me create a copy of this thing, duplicate this guy. Let me just create a new project over here. Let me change the size of this window. No, I should get my glasses too. Give me a second. There we go. I can see now. I got my glasses on, man. I'm getting old. I used to see this just fine, but not now without glasses. So as I look at coverage, okay, let me just use this side of the building. If I am looking at the first coverage of the primary signal, what this means is wherever I am, I'm going to have at least one signal that is at next 65 or next 67, whatever thresholds you have chosen in your design. If I look at secondary coverage, basically asking the device where I have two signals at next 67 or better. Let me just use this space over here in this NOR hold area. You just add an access point in here. Let's just put Cisco 9105. Just change this to San Omni. That works. Just place one of these guys over here. I'm gonna have to refresh this guy. I had this open for a while. Sometimes you have to do that. I also have, 1 second, and make sure that I have a file in here that is gonna work. We create a new project in Ekahau real quick. Let me bring in a map. Loading. Ekahau's taking its sweet time. Oh, let me share my screen again. Looks like I stopped sharing. Oh, looks like Martin is out there in the water. Hey, don't drop your phone in the lake. Martin. He's enjoying his day out there. It's good for you, Martin. Okay, come on, Ekahau. Loading, loading, loading. Here we go. I have this map over here. Let's give this guy a scale. Right here, this is this is 50 feet. Let's do it again. Right here is 50 feet. All right. So if I add an access point, get a Cisco 9120. Hey, we could even use that Arrow Hive APS really, but has negative gain on that. Let's just use this Cisco 6120. So if I place that access point over here, and since I haven't added any walls or doors or anything, Ekahau assumes this is one big flat open space. So this would be that AP. Let me just move. Man, these windows from Zoom keep getting in my way all the time. So it's that AP with that radiation pattern at 7.9 feet from the ground, being an omnidirectional antenna. That's the pattern it creates. So what it shows is that wherever is yellow to green, it's NEC 67 or better signal. So that is where I have my primary signal, where it's good. Where it's gray, it says that it covers a NEC 85 or stronger. That'll be the threshold that basically will make other Wi-Fi devices stop. If I measure the distance of the coverage from this guy all the way out here, I can still see it at 1,176 feet. This is just doing RF math on a big open space. Of course, again, I haven't drawn any walls or doors or anything in here. So if, let's just say, for instance, I need coverage in this entire space down here, so I'm going to have to add more access points. And this is not a design, okay? I'm just showing you the concept. If I want to have signals everywhere, just bring this guy over here, and then just, let's say, with these 4 access points, I cover at least this stretch over here. If I look at 2.4, that'll be a coverage in 2.4. If I look at 5 gig, this will be a coverage in 5 gig. Yes, looks like at 5 gig, I'll have some gaps in between. So if I move this AP over here, then now I'm kind of like getting there. Of course, there's going to be some gaps in there. So this is just a rough example to show you the cell overlap. So if I want to look at my secondary signal, because this is the first signal, where it's yellow to green, there is one signal at that NEC 67 or stronger. If I look at secondary signal strength, notice that what it says is that only in this area over here, there are 2 signals at NEC 67 or better. And some people say, like, but why isn't there a signal right here if I'm under the access point? Because what Ekahau is estimating is the first signal right there is a NEC 56, but the second signal that I can hear is at NEC 72. So I'm not meeting the requirement. If I need 2 signals everywhere at NEC 67 or better, then I'm going to have to add more APs, because evidently with this, I don't have enough coverage, enough secondary coverage. When I talk about the primary coverage or signal strength or just coverage, then it kind of seems like, okay, this is kind of a bad example, okay? Because I'm just like barely touching those cells. But then you may say like, okay, what if I move these access points closer? Okay, if I move this AP like right here to have cell overlap. Now, if I switch back to my secondary signal, now those 2 APs are providing secondary coverage one another only in this space. So when you talk about secondary signal, to have 2 signals at NEC 65 or NEC 67 everywhere, then you're going to need more APs. And when do you need 2 signals? Again, we talk about that when you're roaming, you're going to need two signals everywhere. If you have high density, you're not only going to need two, you're going to need 3 or 4 or 5 signals in the same place for high density. You're going to need multiple signals covering the same places. So we got here talking about the percentage of cell overlap. So it cannot be measured, cannot be estimated. If I need to provide secondary signal everywhere, then let's say I'm going to have to start adding more access points. Let me go back to my access point tool, and then let's start adding access point. I know this is a bad example because this is all open space, but if I want to have secondary signal everywhere, we're going to have to start adding access points. And that's when the salesperson says like, yes, you need more signal, more coverage, then we just put more access points everywhere. The problem that we create with this is that right now we're just looking at coverage. We're not looking at interference. Interference, as we talked yesterday, Wi-Fi interference, that is when you have multiple radios in the same channel covering the same area. So you're going to have in here lots and lots of interference. Let me just probably stop right here because this is just going to take forever. Okay. Let me just resize the size of the screen and kind of like focus on this area only. So now if I, move things around a little bit, then now you can see that where it's yellow to green, I have 2 signals, not a percentage of coverage. It just says everywhere I go, everywhere is yellow to green, you're going to have at least 2 APs. See, there is the primary covering at next 61. Then the second is at next 65. And then the third one is at next 66. And the fourth one, actually, I have 4 APs right there providing coverage for this area. We don't talk about percentages. We don't talk about 30% cell overlap. We don't talk about any value that is just not measurable. It doesn't make sense. It cannot be calculated. It cannot be measured. So don't put that in your RFPs, in your projects. Don't in your reports specify that, hey, we are designing this to provide 30% overlap. Cannot be measured. Questions or comments about this concept? Reason I bring it up is because recently I had that question being asked. And during the last class, I had somebody also send me an email and ask me, then how would this be estimated? Just bring the other document for projects, because people are asking for it today in documents, in RFPs, we keep seeing it. And we as an industry have to educate everybody, interns, coworkers, partners, customers, about this concept. It's been in documents forever. And the big companies, as Gurpreet was saying, Cisco has it, Aruba has it, everybody's got it somewhere in their documents. So you got to make sure that that is not, something that you have to discuss. Hey, come on in. Hi, you are. No problem. Yeah, we're just finishing up a session, and we'll be here. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we got access yesterday just okay, and everything set up and ready to go. Yes, appreciate it. All right, see you in a bit. All right, Ned, you have a question? Go ahead.
Just a comment. I've seen as many designs and deployments ruined by too dense of a AP deployment as too few.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality, of course, is that that's why it's complicated. Because if you add too many, now if we switch, let me go back to Ekahau. If we switch over, of course, Ekahau has a really, once you place the APs, they're all in the same channel. So if we go to interference here, it's going to show lots. I mean, everywhere there's massive interference, because what we have, let me just leave my mouse over there, says that 14 APs are on the same channel. Yeah, I show you one AP in this area covers the entire thing. So if I do a channel planning and tell like, okay, just put everything on different channels, it goes and blah, 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 does its thing. While this loads and while it does that, let's just go to Hamina. number one design tool out there. Let me see. Let me make sure I have. Just create a new one over here real quick. Just duplicate this guy. Actually, I have a smaller one here. Let's just use a new one. We can use this one. It's okay. It's okay. And these Zoom windows keep getting on my way. Let me move this guy out of the way. Okay, let's come over here and duplicate this guy. Make sure. This works okay. Let's see if Ekahau is done. Yes. So now what it does is that it placed all of the APs in different channels. See? And then in this case, what it shows that there is no interference. There are not. Now, if I go to a wider channel, for instance, if I do 80 megahertz wide channels, so we go down to 6 channels only. If I place those guys in 80 megahertz wide channels, then now, well, that does its math. Let's go over here. And there's a big project. Maybe I'm just better off creating a new one. Oh, that loaded. That's okay. So now if we bring access points in here, now just go to my simulation. Let's just place an access point. Let's just place, I don't know, let's place an Aruba, a 635. Okay, and bring that. My internet here is somewhat slow. That will be a radiation pattern of that antenna. So we place one of those guys over here. That is the circle. It creates, it's not a circle. That's why it cannot be measured or calculated. So that will be my primary signal. If I just close this guy, update available. If I switch to my secondary signal, see, I'm on 5 gig right now, and I say, hey, what's my secondary signal for this guy? So like, none, because I only have one radio. So if I want to see, let's just say the channels, and yeah, that works. If I have this guy, let's say, let's do the same exercise as we just did with Ekahau. And maybe move this guy over here, okay? If I want to have primary signal this open space, of course, I don't have any walls. I mean, I could draw walls here. It's really, really hard. Like, whoa, look at that. Holy smokes. That's why I love Hamina. Okay, we have the walls right there. Now, if let's just say, sure, go ahead and draw these walls. Just go to auto draw and auto draw those walls. Okay, now we have walls. If I then go back to access points and I say, hey, show me my primary signal. Then if I have this access point there and I place another one here and another one here and another one there and another one here and another one there, notice that automatically as I'm going, Hamina will change the channels for me. So they're making sure that they're not on the same channel, see? And then since I'm on primary signal, it is just, and again, let's just zoom into this area and then worry about this area only. So if I just want to provide coverage for these guys, then there I have my primary coverage. Just add another one in here. Okay. If I switch to secondary coverage, now I'm going to have some gaps. Where it's green, it's at next 67 or better. 2 signals, okay? Where it's not, then I don't have secondary coverage in those areas, okay? So in here, if I want 2 signals everywhere for roaming, for density, for redundancy, for whatever, because see, right now, this area doesn't have secondary coverage. If this AP dies, then there is nothing in there. So secondary coverage, if I have, let's say, this access point right there, and if I put another AP, let's say down here, now these 2 are providing coverage in this green area. So if one of these APs dies or goes away, just come out here, then now I have this guy providing not enough, but at least I have a primary in there. See if I switch back to primary, there is a primary, there's not a secondary, very well, but for redundancy, at least I have a primary coverage. When this AP goes away, this area is not going to have much primary or secondary. So the concept of secondary is not then calculated in percentages. It's just overall having a secondary signal. And if it's everywhere that you need a secondary signal, then you're going to need more APs. And yes, with that comes more interference. And that's when the software and the human has to fight to try to make this work without generating another problem. So you fix the secondary signal problem, but then now we have so many APs, as was it Ned that was mentioning, that you have too many. Now, yes, you have a secondary cell overlap or third or fourth cell overlap, but then now you have problems with too many radios covering that space. Hey, morning.
Whatever you need, cabling wise.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
Internet.
Yes. So let me finish this right here. In 2 minutes, I'll be with you. Yes. Thank you very much. All right. With this, my friends from all over the world, I think we cover. I know this is not what we had talked about. We were going to talk about having the life cycle. We'll talk about it today. We'll talk about it tomorrow. How's that, Memo? That work? Tomorrow we cover the life cycle. This about cell overlap and secondary signal is a concept that as Wi-Fi professionals, we have to know how to deal with, because people ask for it, because documents have it in them. And then now we cannot try to fight ghosts. And how are you going to demonstrate? Because here's the thing, they give you an RFP and say you have to meet 30% overlap. And then you do a deployment and then you say like, okay, I got it. And they say, okay, now you have to demonstrate that you meet that requirement. How are you going to demonstrate that? There's nothing out there that can be measured or calculated, and then they may hold you to it. They're like, sorry, man, you're not meeting that requirement. You're not demonstrating you did, so we cannot pay you. So get those things clear, remove that from the RFPs or the contracts at the beginning, and then you can have an easier way in the project. With this, my friends, we get to the end of session 360 of Tesos and Wi-Fi. This session, part of the free, 100% free, and 98% in English, that is part of the Wireless LAN Professional Wi-Fi Design class. Today, we talked about cell overlap. Not the bad one, you know, because overlap when you have like channel 36 and channel 36 on the same one, they see each other. Yeah, that's bad overlap. We're talking about the good overlap, the one that we basically need multiple signals. And we focus today in the fact that you cannot get a percentage of cell overlap. That has been a topic of discussion for many years, and that's still true today. Here is the document, and the link is in the chat. It's going to be in the notes. With this, I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will talk about the life cycle of a project. Free Wi-Fi training to everybody and free love to everyone. Thank you very much. Have a great day wherever in the world you are.
Thanks, Ferney. Thanks, Ferney. See you tomorrow.
You're very welcome. Yes, have a good one.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.